Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the Suicide Prevention Week 2020. This year, we are having a week to talk about suicide prevention. And today is the last day of our lectures. We started last Saturday with a lecture by Susana Simões. On Wednesday, we have had a lecture by Vanessa Anceloni. And today, we are having here our dear friend Julio Carvalho from the Spirit Center Divine Light in New Jersey. So you are going to watch very soon his lecture. And as usual, you can interact with us. If you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube, you can just leave us a comment and we are going to have a Q&A. So if you have any question, just send us your questions. So you're going to have a Q&A after Julio's lecture. But before the lecture, I'd like to ask our dear friend Marcelo Cabral and Isabella Cabral to join us here. They are already here. Hi, Marcelo. Hi, Bella.
Hi, Marcelo. How are you?
Very good. Thanks. And you?
Good. Thanks to have us here.
Yeah, so Marcelo and Bella are doing the initial prayer for us.
Thank you. So I'd like to invite all our friends that participate in this event to connect with ourselves, to raise our thoughts to our Father. And thank you, God, for this great opportunity that we have today to listen, to reflect upon the truth that will enlighten us, that will support us in the difficult times, and also our vibration, our kindness to all our friends that live in the spirit realm, that also join us. They can feel the love, the teachings, to fulfill their heart with courage and will to overcome those situations. Protect and inspire our friend Julio Carvalho so he can deliver your message to all of us. So be it.
So be it.
La voce di Maria dentro l'anima mia, come un balsamo scende sulle ferite se lo porta via. La voce di Maria, dolce melodia, che sussurra il cuore sempre di più è il nome di Gesù. Le mani di Maria sopra l'anima mia, santa benedizione, la sua protezione per la vita mia. La voce di Maria, le mani di Maria, c'è il sorriso dolce che ti fa cantare, sei la mamma mia. Gli occhi di Maria dentro l'anima mia scappano dentro il cuore, sciogliendo il gelo e se lo porta via. L'amore di Maria, dolce poesia, che sussurra il cuore sempre di più nel nome di Gesù. Lo sguardo di Maria dentro l'anima mia, la sua tenerezza e splendida bellezza, immensità, armonia, la voce di Maria, lo sguardo di Maria, so il sorriso dolce che mi fa cantare, sei la mamma mia.
Now we're back with our dear friend Julio Carvalho from the Spirit Center Divine Light in New Jersey. Welcome, Julio.
Hi, Marcelo. Thank you for having me. Everyone, allow me to start by wishing peace in our hearts. This topic, unfortunately, it's a hard topic to discuss because the experts in this topic, psychiatrists, psychologists, and psychotherapists, they humbly confess that the cause for suicide is truly unknown. And why is that? Well, that's because they say they have no way to contact those who have departed. Because for traditional science, there is no afterlife. How can we actually ask someone who committed suicide to interview them and have the reasons behind their actions? So in order to do a study on why people commit suicide, you actually have to interview those who committed suicide. This is at least the conclusion that a Harvard study arrived after dedicating so much time to this subject. Well, since we are discussing this topic not only through the lenses of the conventional science, but mainly through the lenses of the Spiritist philosophy, we'll have a different approach on how we discuss this topic. We will give the motives behind people's actions before they are contemplating suicide. And we're also going to give the Spiritist perspective on what could be some of the solutions to these problems. Since the reason why people commit suicide varies so much, it truly depends on each individual personalities, their experience, and their current living conditions. It is very hard to say that it's just one cause. It's actually a multitude of causes that lead people to this unfortunate act. So for the conventional science, some of the reasons why people commit suicide could be for mental illnesses, such as depression. When you read on different websites, the main cause of suicide, most likely you will see the word depression. But studies have shown that only 5% of people who have depression commit suicide. Only 5%. Yet depression is a lot to blame for. Then you have other mental disorders such as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this trauma that someone might feel could be because of an experience that they felt that was actually carried by someone else. For example, someone who suffered rape. Others could be because of an accident, and others still because they feel guilty for something that they have done. Also, conventional science says that people who commit suicide might have a substance abuse problem. They take alcohol or they do drugs, and the combination of these two chemicals lead them to impulsiveness, which means they're not thinking of what they're doing. They just act on the spur of the moment. And then there's a whole set of causes that lead people to suicide when it comes to loss. Loss is a big part of our lives. When we lose someone that we care very much, people might feel that there is no need to live. They lose an opportunity for an academic achievement, and they're losing an opportunity here for success. Some people might feel the urge to end their lives because they are in jail, they are in prison, they will spend many years behind bars. Some individuals feel that it's not worth living because they're being bullied by other individuals. Some people have the urge to end it all because they have financial problems or because their spouse left them. There was a end of a relationship of some sort. A friend has moved to a different town and person got divorced. Then there are those who unfortunately are compelled to think of suicide because they have revealed their sexual orientation and yet they are not accepted by those who this individual cares so much for, or this person could be rejected by general society. Then there are those who think of committing suicide because of they have lost a financial status. Then there are certain people who believe that there's nothing to look forward to. Another way of saying this is a sense of hopelessness. What's the point of going on if I truly am convinced that my tomorrow will be worse than today? That's the sense of hopelessness. Others still might think that suicide could be a solution because they are under chronic pain or they have some sort of terminal illness. Why move forward if my death is guaranteed? And not only my death is guaranteed, but this little life that I have, it's going to be full of pain. So they think that suicide could be a solution. Others still believe that suicide is uh, a way out of avoiding being a burden onto their loved ones. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there, especially the elderly population, that they think they are being a burden on their children because now their children have to care for them. Then there are those who are socially isolated. They are so alone. There are no friends, no one they have contact with, that they think that suicide could be a solution. Other individuals, they commit suicide because they have been exposed to other people that have committed suicide. For example, it could be a friend, a relative, or even celebrities. Whenever a celebrity uh, goes out this way, psychiatrists and psychoanalysts and the mental uh, health clinicians in general, they feel that because there is a tendency to glamorize the death of a celebrity, that other people might follow. So whenever you hear someone who is a celebrity commit suicide, you see all these psychiatrists and the Mental Health Association of different states will come forth on TV to ask not to glamorize the celebrity's death so other people won't feel the urge to do the same. Now, other people, they might commit suicide just because they were only asking for help and not necessarily because they wanted to commit suicide, but they misjudged the lethality of their methods. And unfortunately, they ended up killing themselves. When you study all these causes that conventional science establishes as a root for suicide, what they have in common, and maybe no one discusses about this commonality, it's the fact that they are trying to run away from pain. With few exceptions, all these individuals, what they have common, they are trying to run away from a pain they believe it's unbearable. And here where the Spiritist philosophy comes to a state that if someone tries to run away from pain through suicide, what they will find, instead of alleviating their pain, unfortunately, it will be an intensification of their pain. How people who commit suicides are viewed in the spiritual plane? Well, there is no, common punishment of someone who committed suicide. All acts that we carry on this physical plane are judged on the spiritual plane by mitigating factors and by aggravating factors. And before I get to these, let me just explain to you in a nutshell what the Spiritist philosophy is. It's a body of knowledge that studies the existence of spirits and the relationship of the spirits with the corporeal world. It's a way of seeing life. It tells you who you are, where you came from, and what is the purpose of life. In a nutshell, Spiritism believes that not only our body is in the process of evolution, but your mind, who you are, the spirit, the soul, is also in the process of evolution. Your mission is to achieve perfection, intellectual perfection, and moral perfection. And since this objective, it's impossible to achieve in a single reincarnation, we are giving many opportunities. And these opportunities are called reincarnation, which means the action of re-entering the flesh. So you have lived multiple existences, and you are here to progress. You're here to move forward. And what we label as pain are nothing but opportunities for us to develop this goal, to achieve this goal of developing our intellect by becoming smarter individuals and developing our morality by becoming better individuals. So this way of looking at life, watching and perceiving and observing everything that happens to us through the lenses of this philosophy, gives us a completely different perception of these problems that I just mentioned. So instead of concentrating so much on the conventional science causes of suicide, let's discuss first what Spiritism has to say, and then some possible solution to these problems. Because interestingly enough, when you read websites about suicide, they usually present all the problems that lead people to commit suicide. But they don't offer too many help. What they do offer, it's a hotline, someone that you can call on a 24/7 basis. And the reason they do this, obviously, is to help people not commit suicide. But unfortunately, suicide here in the US is the 10th leading cause of death. So it's a matter of public mental health. So if someone is thinking of it, you can call this hotline. It's 24/7, the suicide hotline, and someone would be there to talk to you no matter what time of the day. But here we are to present to you the Spiritist philosophy of this topic. And even if you don't understand about reincarnation, if you think this is completely off, if you think this is all bogus, still, you can see it as an additional tool that you might have, even if you don't believe it, but reasons for you to avoid it. Because chances are, 95% of us could be right, and 5% of us could be wrong. What I mean by this, the amount of atheists, the amount of materialists on the planet, people who claim themselves not to believe in any afterlife, it's only 5%. And those who claim that they have some sort of belief in the afterlife, it's 95%. So the probability that 5% can be wrong is very high. So I'm not asking you to accept this information I'm about to give to you, but I'm asking you to consider it, just to ponder about it, think on it. And even if you think it's all phony, you still can use this message as a useful way to criticize what you don't know. Because when we criticize a body of knowledge that we have no information about it, we only reveal our own ignorance. To criticize something that we don't know, it's foolishness in our part. So this is how Spiritism views all these different topics. For example, the topic of PTSD, post-stress, post-traumatic stress disorder. If you're facing with post-traumatic stress disorder from a traumatic event, for example, let's say someone abused you, let's say something happened to you so awful, someone did something to you, what Spiritism has to say is that you should forgive whoever did this to you. Now, each of the solutions I will present about these topics, it's a lecture in itself. So I'm going to only summarize some of the solutions of these problems. So if someone did something awful to you and you hate that person, you wish you can do something back to this, you can do something back to this person. What you're doing, you are only maintaining the live memory of this occurrence eating you from inside out. Because whenever you hate someone, you're just harming yourself over and over again. So to forgive someone who did something awful to you, it's not to say that what they did is right. It's not to suddenly have an amnesia. It's you giving power back to yourself by making a firm determination that you are more important than this person who has abused you. Because as long as you keep tormenting yourself with the memories of what have occurred to you, you're just allowing them to continue doing harm to you. Why in the world are you going to allow someone who has harmed you to continue harm you? Please don't do that. There is no medication that can fix this. It's only a decision done by you, which means I would not allow this person to continue to harm me. I'm going to let it go because life will take care of this individual who harmed me. For the simple fact that we all live under the law of action and reaction, cause and effect. Everything that we do comes back to us. So for that person who has harmed you, something will happen to them for them to reap the negative consequences of what they have done to you. If you experience a past traumatic stress disorder because you feel guilty of something that you have done, well, how can you get out of guilty? Well, there is one way out of guilty, and that's not by taking medication. Nothing against medication. It's because conventional science places so much emphasis on taking medication to solve our problems that people start taking medication, having the illusion that once they take the pill, all problems will go away. It's an illusion. A medication could help, but it's not the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem requires much effort in your part to overcome the obstacle. So if you feel guilty, that means you have done something negative to someone. Well, how can you get out of that guilt? You can get out of the guilt either by doing good to the person that you have harmed, but let's say this person is no longer around. This person have crossed to the spiritual plane. What do you do instead? Well, you help other people around you because the sum of your positive actions will cancel the negative that you have done. Because when you do something negative, you feel bad. When you do something good, you feel good. It's simple as that. I know it's simple to understand, much harder to put in practice, but that's how everything in life. But by you experiencing the good sensation that comes from helping someone, eventually you will look at yourself and you will forgive for what you have done. What is forgiveness of ourselves? Is to give ourselves the chance to be happy again. We're not saying that we have agreed with what we have done, but instead we are saying, I'm willing to help other people. I will now spread all positive actions, and that makes me feel good because I want to be happy again. The person that I was who did that in the past is no longer here. I'm a different person. And you move toward. Don't linger in thoughts of suicide, because if you kill yourself, nothing will be solved. The reason we think this way, it's because we spiritists, we guide our way of thinking, our way of perceiving by the lenses of the spiritist philosophy. And one of the main books of the spiritist philosophy is the Spirits book. And in the Spirits book, there is a whole chapter dedicated to the how to avoid committing suicide. And from question 943 to question 957, there you will find reasons not to commit suicide. And the last question of that chapter, which is question 957, Allan Kardec asks, if there is a common common consequence for all the individuals who committed suicide. And the common consequence of all the individuals who committed suicide, it's the fact that they will face disappointment. And what is disappointment? Disappointment is when you expect something, but you get something else. To be frustrated is to actually expect something, but then what you have, it's something that you did not expect. And for those who have committed suicide, regardless of the reason they committed suicide, they were trying to run away from pain, just like someone who is experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what they're trying to do, to relieve the pain they're experiencing. But once they find themselves in the spiritual plane, once they realize that they have just killed the vehicle, but the driver, it's still very much alive, what they experience is disappointment, because the pain that they wanted to run away from, not only it's there, but now it's multiplied to the fact that they have run away from the opportunity of solving the pain. What are the consequences of people who committed suicide in the spiritual plane? Once again, there are the mitigating factors and there are the aggravating factors. What are mitigating factors? Mitigating factors are reasonable causes why people committed suicide. For example, they lost their job. They did not want to be a burden on their family. They felt so guilty because they have done something wrong. So they're thinking they're doing here something positive because they're trying to avoid shame on others because of their behavior. These are mitigating factors. The intent is good, but the consequence, the result, it's awful. What are aggravating factors? Well, aggravating factors are things that were purposely done in a negative way. For example, someone who has lots of pride and they lost their job, or they had a very high social position and they lost their money gambling, for example. And now they have to lower their social status. They no longer can drive that top-notch car. They have to ride on bus. And they feel so humiliated by this that they rather take their own life instead of riding a bus, instead of having to do manual labor. Those would be aggravating factors. So for someone who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, feeling guilty, or for something that have happened to them, these are mitigating factors. But once again, the commonality of all these individuals will be that they will experience disappointment, meaning not only the pain they thought they were running away from will still be there, but now it's multiplied to the factor that they realized, oh my God, I was experiencing all those difficult moments as an opportunity to grow myself, and I ran away from the opportunity. So there are those who commit suicide due to substance abuse and alcohol. Once again, through the lenses of the Spiritist philosophy, when someone numbs themselves by any chemical addiction, they are not solving the problem. As a matter of fact, what they're doing, they're just making their probability of killing themselves even higher, because now they can be easily influenced by sick spirits, by spirits who are disturbed from the spiritual plane. They can be obsessed. And if they are using drugs and if they are on alcohol, they lose their sense of discernment. They cannot distinguish right from wrong. So they're easily controlled by spirits. They're easily controlled by these minds. So if you study through conventional science, some of the precipitating factors that someone might kill themselves, you might hear people saying that they heard voices, and these voices are very negative in nature. The voices are literally telling them, kill yourself, kill yourself, and they get accustomed to the idea. And this is why, my friends, you should never even play with the sentences. Sometimes you hear people saying, one of these days, I might take my own life. Don't play like that. Some people are not being serious about it, but you repeat it to yourself so much that you get accustomed to the idea. And you might eventually do it, unfortunately, to your own detriment. So those who are using these substances, they lose their sense of discernment. They can no longer think. And looking from a psychological point of view, this pandemic, in many instances, was so exaggerated, and there are a lot of people who are forced to stay at work, who are forced to work, yet but from their home. And there are a lot of individuals out there, believe it or not, that they actually sober up just to go to work. On the weekends, they binge drinking, they use drugs, and then on Monday, they have to sober up to go to work. And that's the only reason why they sober up. But working from home, unfortunately, gave a lot of individuals the chance just to drink and use drugs and from the comfort of their home still do their work. And what's the result of that? Many people, unfortunately, died. A lot of people committed indirect suicide this way. So drinking and drugs, they are never a solution to anything. No one in their right mind having a problem, to fix will diminish their capacity to solve that problem. When someone drinks or use drugs, that's what they're doing. They're diminishing their capacity to solve the problem. When you have a challenge in front of you, you need all the mental clarity to solve the problem. Once again, someone who is depressed might ask, what's the point of solving problems? I don't want to solve my problems. Well, my friend, from the Spiritist perspective, the purpose of your existence is to evolve, is to progress, is to move forward. You're here to develop yourself intellectually and morally. And most likely what you label as a problem, it's nothing but an opportunity to develop your spiritual skills, just like we do in schools. In schools, we purposely design problems for children in order for them to perfect those skills. What is the intent of the teacher when the teacher give them a problem at the end of the month? Is it to crush them down? Is it to make the students feel bad about themselves? No. The intent of the teacher is to solidify the knowledge in the children's mind in order for them to move forward, in order for them to surpass their own limitations. And that's what life is all about. It's about evolution. It's about progress. So what you label as a problem, it's an opportunity. And when you have that opportunity, you need all the sobriety you can to overcome the challenge and not trying to run away from it. I also mentioned in the beginning of this lecture, the fact that people experiences all different kind of losses. And this is what leads them to think of suicide. And some of these losses is, academic failure. They are in college and they set themselves to be an engineer and they set themselves to be a lawyer, a doctor, and they fail at it. And they feel awful. But the question is, why did you even pick that topic to begin with? Was it you or your parents? Do you even love what you do? And we all live under this myth. Truly, it's a myth that, if you get to college, it's guaranteed success afterwards. Truly, Have you read the latest data on this? Our society depends on a multitude of skills. And if all of us were college graduates, this would not be a healthy thing for our society. You know, learn who you are. Try to find out what are your natural skills, things that you naturally love to do, and see if you can make a living at it. And even if you cannot make a living out of it, maybe you can bear with a job that you don't like, but then you invest in your free time in doing things that you like. Because eventually, by having so much fun in doing things that you like, you would end up liking your job. And most importantly, what this philosophy helps us to understand is that when you have a job that you don't like so much, there are so many useful things that you can learn from that job to apply on the job that you really like. So please do not judge yourselves by comparing yourself to other people, by their academic achievement. Maybe that's their mission, but yours, it's a different mission. You are presented with opportunities all the time. And maybe you saw that window that was closed to you, that door that was closed to you in the academic world, but other doors are fully open. Other windows of opportunities are really open. But you're so concentrated in that door that is closed that you don't see the other 9 doors that are open. Another kind of loss that leads people to think of suicide is because they lost their freedom. They're doing jail time. And because I spent 12 years of my life working as a jail social worker, I have abundant experience on this topic. And I'm glad to say that during those 12 years, no one committed suicide on my watch. I had plenty of opportunity to have conversations with these individuals. And one of my main responsibilities was to prevent people from killing themselves. I just regret the fact that, I took a week off on my vacation, and this particular individual that came to jail, the day I left for vacation, that individual committed suicide. He committed suicide because his wife cheated on him. And he reacted in such a violent way that he ended up being in jail. What a waste of life. I had many instances in which I could speak with individuals who were thinking about hurting their wives, or they were there because they harmed their wives due to these affairs. Someone was being unfaithful to the other person. And I always had an opportunity to tell these individuals that it's your pain is unbearable. This is so difficult. I cannot even imagine what you experienced when this woman left you. But suicide is no answer. You will probably be depressed and sad for the next 3 or 6 months, but I guarantee you, eventually get over this. You find another woman, and life moves forward. Obviously, I'm trying to shorten weeks of therapy here in just a couple of minutes of explanation. But basically, that was the message. It's not worth of hitting anyone, of harming anyone, because they were unfaithful to you. This happened so many times. Someone was cheating, and then the neighbor called the husband, who was the victim here, and the husband came in and reacted so violently, grabbed a baseball bat and started hitting both of these individuals. And then police shows up. So now you have the wife who was being unfaithful, you have the lover, and then you have the husband, the apparent victim here. And the cop arrives, and guess who comes to jail? Not the lover, not the unfaithful wife, but the guy. So now she's out there with the other guy. Did he solve his problem? No, he didn't. He only intensified his pain. So, cry, be depressed for a while, but eventually life moves forward. Because once you get over the cloud and you come to think of what happened, 6 months ago when this all happened, you would say to yourself, oh my God, I would be crazy to have killed myself because of this woman. And from the Spiritist perspective, we have a very source of knowledge, very interesting source of knowledge about these cases, is the fact that, we don't die. We just get out of our body. So let's say someone committed suicide because their wife cheated on him. So now this individual kills himself and he's on the spiritual plane, and the years go by. And one day that individual has an opportunity to see his wife and the lover and whoever remained behind. And sometimes 40, 50 years went by. And now, his beautiful wife, it's an old, ugly woman. And then he looks at himself and he says, oh my God, I cannot believe that I took my own life because of this, this ugly old woman. And my friends, suicide, it's never a solution at all. Then you have those who think of suicide because they are being bullied by others. If you ever experienced any kind of bullying, please have in your mind the following truth. If someone talks very highly of you, you're not going to get better. If someone talks very low of you, you're not going to get worse. You are who you are and not other people's opinion. Please do not allow others to control you by their opinions, because you're not what they say. The more troubled you are, the more miserable you show to them that you feel, what you're doing, you're just giving them more fuel to control you. You are telling them, what you're doing, it's working, because look at me, I am miserable. If you have someone who's bullying you, appear to them as happy as you can be, and you digest this information in your mind. What are they saying about me? Is it really true? Am I lazy? Am I ugly? Am I incapable? Am I a failure? Am I stupid? Are these things true? And most likely what you find out that there are innumerable resources within you that you have unnoticed, because you're so concentrated in this false information that you haven't given yourself the chance to look at you and see the positive aspects of your life. Do not allow others to dictate your emotions by accepting their information. Because if they talk very highly of you, you're not going to get better. If they talk very low of you, you're not going to get worse. Some individuals think of suicide because they lost their financial freedom. Now they have to work harder. And this is where the Spiritist philosophy is so useful, because it tells us that these financial losses, that these situations are fleeting moments of our existence. The lesson here is for the spirit. There are so many things that we can learn by going through a financial loss, because at times we're losing something, but we're gaining so much. And not only this, but because we are here on this material plane very, very momentarily, it means that we should be detached from material possession as much as we can. To be detached from material possession doesn't mean that we're going to advocate for being poor. That's not the point. The point is that you do not make material possessions your source of happiness. Unfortunately, most people are indoctrinated that in order for them to be happy, they must have success, because success leads to money and money leads to material pleasure. And eventually, when they get these things, they are not experiencing happiness at all. Jim Carrey, the comedian, had said that he wished everyone was rich and famous so they could see that this is not the world to happiness. Because what is happiness in the true sense of the word? Happiness, my friends, it's when we fulfill our obligations. Once again, I keep coming back to the same point of developing ourselves intellectually and morally. When we are fulfilling our duty, we naturally experience this emotion of happiness. But this happiness would not be long lasting. And reason being, it's because we have different opportunities to keep growing, to keep breaking our limits, to evolve our potential. And we always will be presented with these opportunities, and we label them as being problems, but they're not. They are opportunities. So embrace them. If you have financial problems, maybe that would put you in a different track of a career that you never thought about it. And that track would give you way better experiences than what you have lived. But Now, most importantly, if you're not in that problem, but you are one of these individuals who live constantly just to get material things, believing that you're happy, prevent yourself from this kind of frustration because you're not here necessarily to acquire things. You're here to better yourself. Your struggle should be for virtues, not necessarily for things. Live within your means. Live within your means, meaning do not buy things that you know you'll be enslaved of it. Some people, they buy expensive cars, or they buy a house that it's bigger than their budget. And what happens, they have now to have double jobs and triple jobs just to manage what they have acquired. And the question is, do they really have these things, or the things have them? Ask yourself the question. Do you own things, or the things own you? So if something happens, if there's a fire, if you lose your job, yes, it would be sad, you will be frustrated, but this will not mean it's the end of your life. You won't be thinking of suicide. Then there are those who commit suicide due to hopelessness. My tomorrow will be worse than today. And this is where the Spiritist knowledge, it gives us you such firm ground to stand on by making you understand, by giving you a conviction that your tomorrow, depending on what you're doing with your today, will be better than today. That is the definition of hope, the certainty that my tomorrow will be better than my today. What you might have to do is to change your definition of better, because you think that doing better tomorrow could be having more things. And by having more things, that's what led you to your moral disaster. So maybe having things, it's not your definition of doing better. Better in a sense that you be at peace with yourself because you have fulfilled your obligation. Better in the sense that you have become a better version of yourself. And by doing that, you have peace of mind. And that will leads to true happiness. In the Spirit's book, we learned that this conviction of our future, it's something that is ingrained in our character once we understand the laws of life. And that's what the Spirit's book it's all about, helping us understand these natural laws that control our behavior, the laws of work, the laws of society, the laws of freedom, the laws of equality. These are different laws that control our behavior. And when we have knowledge of these laws, we apply them, and suddenly we experience a peace of mind, the ground for happiness. It's the same as driving a car without understanding no traffic rules. You're just out there with your car going everywhere. You're breaking speed limits. You are running red lights. You're everywhere. The chances of dying, it's very high. So when people are on the road of life without knowing any rules, they're driving out there, and the chances of dying is very high. Not physically dying, but morally dying. Because in the Spiritist perspective, to die has nothing to do with living the flesh. If someone commits suicide, they are not ceasing to exist. They're just changing planes. They're moving from the physical plane to the spiritual plane. To really die from the Spiritist perspective is to live without knowing the purpose of your existence. So see around, you probably know a lot of people who are living in a dead manner, or a deadly living, because they have no purpose. They have no objective. They are here just to fulfill their physical sensations, bodily pleasures. And the more they do that, the more empty, the more void they feel inside themselves. That's the true definition of death here. So for those people who think they are burdened on others, I work with the elderly population in a hospice. And I see a lot of this. There's a lot of people who have gone beyond their 90s. And these individuals, they truly do not feel like they want to kill themselves, but they have enough of living. They say, enough is enough. I'm not saying that I want to take my own life, but I think I have lived a lot of years. And then we ask them, why do you feel this way? And some of them say, because, my daughter is spending time with me more than she should. My son is spending more time than he should. And what I tell them is that while they are experiencing this emotion, and I am being a burden in my family, I tell them that for their family, it's an opportunity to express their love. It's just the opposite. For a child, is their way of expressing, I love you, I will take care of you. You took care of me, you put me through a good school, I have a life because of all the things you taught me. And the least I can do is to show my gratitude by taking care of you. So meanwhile, you are thinking that you're being a burden on them, but you're just giving them an opportunity to express their love. And because we break down this argument in such a fine detail, you most likely, what I have are people crying and they're hugging one another, and the son is confessing, it's true, I didn't know how to put in words, but that's exactly how I feel. And then the elderly person will feel that less that they are a burden on someone else. So to wrap it up, because like I said, I can only synthesize um, the solutions to these multitude of causes for suicide, because it's only an hour of lecture. Each of these topics can give us, a whole opportunity for lecture discussion. But the basic knowledge that we all should take from this is the fact that uh, suicide, it's never a solution. We are trying to run away from our pain by committing suicide, but what we find, it's only more pain from the fact that we ran away from an opportunity to become a better version of ourselves. And because we have not achieved our purpose, we will reborn. We will have another reincarnation, another opportunity. But because we wasted the last opportunity, the following reincarnation will be a little bit harder. And it would be a little bit harder, not because we're being punished for what we have done, but because, unfortunately, there is a tendency to value things only when we lose them. And since we have lost an opportunity, it's taken away the easiness of new opportunities, so we can value what is to have a opportunity. So this time we can really make it work for us. So in conclusion, please find help. If you're having any thoughts, if you are struggling with life and you feel that you'll be better off if you're not here, maybe find a Spiritist center near you. Find knowledge in the internet about this, because the Spiritist knowledge is such a profound body of knowledge that I reassure you, I guarantee you that you will find reasons to overcome these negative thoughts, and you will be able to be convinced that you are very valuable to life. You are a very important person, and that you have within resources that have been unnoticed until now. And then you tap into these resources, and you will definitely achieve your potential as a human being. Thank you so much for your attention.
Sorry, I was mute. So thank you so much, Julio, for your words, so enlightening words. We are back here with Marcelo and Isabela Cabral, and now we have also Dulce here with us. Hi, Dulce.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for have all of you here. What a great pleasure. Was so challenging today, but it's a blessing to have us here Thank you. What a beautiful talking, and but you got such many nuances, very close to my heart, which I should I share something that you said, Julio? Many people say, sometimes we sometimes give a lot of thoughts when we lose somebody when it died, for example. If when someone died, and when we lose a lover, a husband, or a boyfriend, is such a loss, especially when we don't expect it, that loss. And this is when I can see if someone is not really close to God, have a great foundation like a friend and close family, can go through in thinking of these thoughts. I had lost, like you guys, are close friends. I have been going through divorce and lose boyfriend. And I had one point that was in such a deep, deep pain that I sit down and I cry so much. And I know that when I felt so lonely, the presence that I felt was powerful. The presence of God, I would say God. I like to think it was a God, it was a Christ. And for those who feel that there is no one, because when we lose someone that we love, whether it's a boyfriend or was a ex-husband, they feeling the rejection that you're not good enough. That is the feeling. And then when you feel that powerful, that is, I like to think was a God or was a good or Jesus that holds you. And I say that thank you to the Spiritism, because we have such a commitment every week that we study, that we come together. It is this commitment to be close to God and to Jesus and have a friends. This is bring us together to spirituality. And this in being spiritists do not shield us to go to struggles of life, but does give us the strength when the tough times come. That is, I would like to share, because that moment, when that moment came, what felt good to know that I'm not good enough for someone, but I'm good enough for God and my friends and in my family. This is good enough to continue to live. That's how I would like to share. Thank you to bring that point, because so many times loses their life because lose the lovers. Thank you.
Would you like to raise your question?
Okay. I took a lot of notes. I have 4 pages of notes. So I could come with a question or two. So one of my questions is, in school, there are a lot of people who are in my classes, or you can just see in the hallway, that are visibly stressed, upset. A lot of kids have been parents have lost jobs. They're going on the free meals and stuff like that. And just with school in itself. And one of my teachers went through the school system, and she said that a lot of people that she knew had committed not a lot of people, but some people had committed suicide. And I was wondering, how can we sort of bring it up within places that aren't necessarily spiritist like places, but so that other people can understand why not to harm themselves?
The reason why I laugh at your question, and this is the dilemma that most spiritists face here in the US. How can you explain all this knowledge without mentioning spiritism? Look, our intent is not necessarily to make people spiritists. Our intent is to help people be better version of themselves. So in your particular case, what I would suggest, because if this is a suggestion that the entire school knows and the other students, it would be very efficient. And the suggestion is to not allow that kid who is isolating themselves because of all the trouble they're experiencing, we actually go and start having a conversation. It takes courage for us to take that initiative, approaching the little boy that we see that is not talking to anyone, especially if it's a boy. And reason being, it's because as a society, unfortunately, we trained boys not to express their emotions, and we teach girls to to express their emotions. For example, when you're little and you're a little girl and you fall, you hurt your knee, everyone comes to you and they cuddle to you and they kiss you and they say, "What happened, sweetheart? Show the boo boo to me. Show me boo boo to mommy. Let me put a band-aid." If it's a boy that hurts himself the same exactly way, we tell them, boys don't cry. Stop crying. Why are you having these tears? That's nothing on your knee. So what we're doing here, we are inculcating in them the need to close on themselves and not to express their emotions. So you see little boys in school, you see teenagers in school, 14, 15 years old, they're very close to themselves. And reason being, this is because they were taught to act in this manner. So for another teenager to have the courage to go there and ask, what's going on, it takes lots of courage, like I said. However, it's very meaningful to that person because that person who's isolated, not only they're getting the burden from school, from home, but then what hurts them the most is the fact that they are being isolated from everyone else. Because in their mind, they might think, well, because my father no longer can work, so that means he no longer can afford my club. And what that means is I don't longer exist because nobody notices me in school. And one thing has nothing to do with the other. My job, my father can lose the job. He can no longer afford my club or my special hobby, yet I still am a friend for my friends. I still have support. So we go there and, we could start the conversation by saying something like this. I have noticed that you are quieter than usual. Is everything all right with you? And they might be reluctant to say the truth. And then you might tell them, well, I've been quiet very well. I've been quiet as well, because this whole pandemic thing has really thrown my family off. My father, he tells me that he's having heart problems at his job. My mother is no longer able to work as many days as she was before, and this really bothers me. And because I made the decision to open up myself that way, this other student would be encouraged to open up themselves. Because if I am in an environment in which everybody's perfect and they have perfect lives, I'm afraid of talking about my imperfect life. So if someone comes and they show themselves to me that their life is not so perfect as I thought it was, then they'll be willing to open up themselves more. So that's my suggestion, not only to you, but to any teenager out there in any school. Approach those who are isolated. Don't let them isolate themselves.
Thank you.
Julio, thank you very much. I love your reflections. I make my own notes here, not as much as Bella, but I took my notes. Julio, uh, in order to prevent, in order to prepare ourselves when the challenge comes in our life, so we're more suitable to succeed when the pain knocked our door. The question is, what should we do on a daily basis to prevent that when the challenge knocking our door will be in the best position to learn and to grow out of that situation?
Marcelo, this is a question of mental, spiritual immunity. You see, our body has a defense mechanism we call the immune system. And this body, with this system, can protect itself from many different diseases. And the way we strengthen our immune system, it's by eating healthy and exercising. So when there is a disease, people would be contaminated, yet they would not experience any symptoms. Isn't this the case with COVID-19? There are a lot of people out there who are COVID-19 positive, yet they don't experience any symptom whatsoever. No fever, no coughing. And why is that? Well, that's because their body has a strong immune system. Their defense mechanism is able to overcome the viruses that produces those symptoms. Well, the same is with our mental health. We have to keep our spiritual immune system very strong. And how do we do this? Well, we do this with lots of reading. And here's the book I mentioned a couple of times. We read the Spirit's book, and any book that gives us a spiritual immunity. We refrain ourselves from watching horror movies, having negative conversations, having negative company. All these things contribute to weaken our immune system, our spiritual immune system. So we strengthen by having this knowledge, and obviously by putting the knowledge into practice that tells us to do so many different things to be spiritually strong, to be mentally strong. And Ducey, it's a perfect example of this, and I'm going to talk about her because she mentioned, she disclosed her own information. She said that she went through a divorce. And when she went through that divorce, it was very painful indeed. However, Ducey is here with us. Her spiritual immune system was strong enough not to let her down, and she moved forward with her life. So she used that information. Unfortunately, Marcelo, there's a lot of people out there with no spiritual immune system. They don't require a divorce to break down. Any little thing breaks them down. You know, they wake up in the morning just because their tires flat. That's enough for them to have their days destroyed. You ask them, you know, how are you doing? And they will say, well, it's one of those days. Well, what do you mean it's one of those days? What day are you talking about? It's one of the, you know, people have an addiction to always complain. And if they go to work now with this mentality, they will make sure to find other reasons to make their days more miserable. It's called the self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, they will provoke someone at their job just to start a fight. And then once that fight breaks down and they're in big problem, they will confirm to themselves, I knew it. This was one of those days. But that's because they were creating that day to begin with, when they woke up in that morning full of negativity within themselves. So to prepare ourselves and to be spiritually strong, to have our immune system very strong, we should read, put into practice, which requires us to reflect, to be a better version of ourselves. And when these moments happen, our perception, Marcelo, it's completely different. Our perception is, well, I have a struggle. This is a challenge. But the best part of this is that I know, I am convinced that this challenge is not against me. It's for me. And if I triumph over this challenge, I will be a better version than I was before.
Thank you very much, Julio.
Hi,
Hey.
my name is Colleen. I know a lot of eccentric people that have big, beautiful minds and beautiful hearts and have a lot to offer, and get lost in how much they have to offer and finding their place in society, not really feeling like they can fit in anywhere. And they could take any job that they want, really they have a lot of talent, but finding that purpose, finding the meaning, and get lost in whether what they choose is going to be the right decision and what they would have to sacrifice to make that choice. A lot of people, my generation, not all, but there's a good amount of people, artists and musicians and such, that fall into this category. I find myself there too sometimes. And, not, really just pouring into faith that something will pull through and something will happen, and to just go where you feel drawn to. But almost feels like years go by and it's like, this isn't the right thing to do. What do you do? And then it just creates this cycle. So I don't really know how to get out of that cycle.
Thank you, Colleen, for your question. This is a rather question of times. And reason being is because I read about this subject and a lot of people feel that way. And one of the challenges with this question, it's the fact that the smarter that we are, the more difficult we make things for ourselves. And I, by no means, I'm trying to compare you or anyone who's listening to this that follows into this category, but I just want to emphasize this principle that the smarter that you are, sometimes you make things harder for yourself. I found out working in the jail system, like I said, for 12 years, that the hardest people to help were actually the people who had some sort of academic achievement. Lawyers and doctors. And reason it was so hard to help them, it's because since they were intellectually smart, and I rephrase that, they were intellectually smart, they had clever ways to excuse for their wrong behavior. Smart people didn't have much clever ways to excuse for their behavior, so it was blatant for them that this was wrong. However, intelligent people had clever ways to excuse their behavior. So in their mind, what they were doing was not wrong. So it was hard for them to see it that way until they suffered the consequences of being jailed and in prison. And my way of trying to help these people was to explain to them that if you're here in jail, it means that your ways did not work for you. So what you require to help yourself, it's a little bit of humbleness. And what is humbleness? Humbleness has nothing to do with, being poor or eating out of the garbage bag. Sometimes you might see a poor people in New York City, begging for food, begging for money, and they might point at that person and say, that's a humble person right there. That has nothing to do with being humble. Humble is the awareness that we don't know. Humbleness is the awareness that we don't know, which is the opposite of pride. What is pride? Is to think that I am something that I'm not. Is to think more of myself than I really am. So to have different talents, to have different capabilities of doing things, it does not mean I have wisdom. Wisdom is very different than being intelligent. Wisdom, in pertaining to the question you asked me, it will be actually the ability to concentrate myself in one goal and one goal only. Because if I do a multitude of things at the same time, it will be impossible for me to become an expert in any of those areas.
Mm-hmm.
I dedicate myself to so many different fields that I ended up not dedicating myself to none of them, fully with all my heart, because my heart is split in so many different directions. But part of the cause of this problem is it's because we are now presented with so many different opportunities to learn. We are bombarded by society with all these different things that we can do. If you go back about 15, 20 years ago, this problem was not so prominent for the fact that the information was not there presented to us. You went to your guidance counselor had few options for you. You chose your college and then you set your career and then you went on. But nowadays, if You type something on the internet or Facebook with an algorithm, they might think that you have this or that passion. And then you're bombarded by different schools, by different social media, and things that you can do. It's a trap, you know.
Mhm.
So my answer to you will be to develop wisdom, which means which of my talents I am the best at it, but which one that I have more pleasure doing it. And thirdly, which is very important, which one can I make a living? And the reason I say this, it's because sometimes we hear, and this is a mistake, follow your passion. And sometimes we might have a passion, Colleen, but we're not good at it. You know, I could have a passion for sing, but I can't sing. You know, I could have a passion for driving, but I would never become a car racer. So if I follow my passion, I will starve. So I need to make sure that what I choose, I can also make a living out of it. And what I have a passion, I could make a hobby out of it. Because what we see in many instances are people who have a passion, and yet they have succeeded. And we see them on TV, and we see all their success right there in front of us. But this is a very small percentage of people that we're seeing. What about those who follow their passion but did not succeed whatsoever? So we have to make sure that if we have a passion, we are really good at it with this passion, and that this passion leads us to a living, because we are living in the material world, then we need material things.
Thank you.
Uh, just here to excuse my own answer, you know, people write books on this subject, Colleen. So I'm summarizing here. Some authors write books on this topic, and very extensive books, because it's a hard question to ask. Because some of these authors, they're so competent, they have achieved so much, they are into their late 50s, and they confess that they don't know what to do with themselves, because they have all these different talents, different opportunities, yet they don't know what to concentrate themselves in. So it's something hard to ask. But if you have these three factors together, passion, competency, you know how to do it, and you can make a living out of it, you'll concentrate on that.
Thank you.
Good.
And Bella, do you have more questions?
I think I have one question. This morning, I woke up. I like to make up music in the morning, and then I will start to sing "Lucy in the Road" to spread spiritism. I start to sing it myself. And then I went to do my hair, and I was very happy. And then I noticed the person that was doing my hair, she was not so happy. Of course, I have to switch my mood because it was not fair. And then someone came and was not in good mood neither. So I said, well, Lucy, you continue to be in the road to spread spiritism, but you serve now. Because spiritism is about serving. So I was leaving this place. This person followed me. And she told me a very, very sad story. And as she was telling me this story, my body, of course, started to change. And obviously, I start to feel the emotions as she was telling me the story. And I said to myself, if I could tell people that how dangerous it is to bring this kind of situation home. What this person was telling me was about porno that her husband was bringing home. And I felt extremely sick to my stomach. And then I start to pray and close my chakras in a way, and at the same time, give it to this person empathy because she started crying because she was indecisive if she should leave her husband or not. This has been happening for many years. So I start to tell myself, you can't tell her what to do. The only thing that you can do is listening. It's a fraternal assistance. It's not all the time you do at the Spirit Center. And she started to tell me such a detailed, and then in the end she told me some information which is very relevant to what we have today. Many she has sometimes not to leave. So in the end, she wanted to hug me, but her energy was not good, and I didn't feel like to hug. And I asked myself, what is what's your brothers and sister? But her energy, because she was so engaged with the story that she was telling me, and I was already feeling so sick. What we should tell to these people that husbands or wives that bring pornography to house, how bad this can affect the family? Just to hear the story of this person made me so sick. I had to pray when I came inside of the car. And obviously, I had to pray for this person. And at the same time, I felt guilt because I didn't want to hug because due to the energy that this person had this moment and was so physical, the energy due to have been in environment for the long period. And then obviously I hugged her because I'm a spiritist. You do it. And I prayed. Can you say something about this topic? How much is these affects our family? Nowadays, today seems look from outside because I was not expected. This came from like a party shoes at the moment, and I could physically see how dense the energy it is. Could you please say something about that? Is it possible?
What the problem you are stating, Ducey, it's not a new problem. Unfortunately, technology has been used in a very negative way. I first should say that technology in itself, it's neutral. It's what you do with technology that can either better you or harm you. And in that sense, for those who are addicted to pornography, they have been addicted before internet. They have been addicted before YouTube. Technology only has made readily available. I would say that in the past, there was the shame of walking into a video store and actually renting a video because you had to physically walk there and ask for this video. But now with technology, you have your private account. No one knows you. Besides the movie industry knows exactly who you are, and they promote the stuff to you. There is no shame in doing it because no one in your circle of sphere knows that you're doing this. So it's very detrimental to the family. Now, the solution to this problem, it's a whole lecture. It's a whole seminar because there are so many different things that we have to discuss. People's self-esteem, what is going on in the couple's relationship, what was there in the beginning that no longer exists. There are so many variants to this problem because I do not want to prematurely accuse the person who's doing it without analyzing both sides. And I'm not saying that I am agreeing with this. All I'm saying is that I don't have enough information to side with someone. And that's not even the goal here. The goal is actually to promote a solution. But to promote a solution, we have to understand the cause. And I truly believe that someone who's addicted to pornography and that leads to the family destruction, that in itself is not the cause of the problem. That is one of the consequences of something else that it's going on that should be addressed.
All right. Thank you. I said I don't have the...
I think we are ready on time. Yeah.
Yeah, we're right on time. So we are going to have thank you everyone who everyone who's watching us, everyone who are here with us. And so we are going to have now the final prayer by Colleen. After that, Dulce is coming back for some final words. And we also have a final song by Isabella Silvestre. So let's all of us stay here. Colleen.
Okay. Dear God, Jesus, guides, and all that are with us, thank you for this beautiful lecture. May we integrate into our lives more fully on a personal level, as well as for others, to walk in your steps, to be an example for ourselves and others, to act from true faith, and to always let you be the guide for us, and to reach out when we need help. And thank you for allowing us to have the wherewithal to reach out when we need that help. And thank you.
So be it. Thank you.
So be it.
Here is my invitation that you get off your chair, get off your couch, dance, sing along with us. And hi, everybody. So here is my invitation that you get off your chair, get off your couch, dance, sing along with us, and let us celebrate life together. When the night has come and the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me. Come on, Dulce, Marcelo Medeiros, Marcelo Isabella Cabral, Colleen, Julio, Gustavo, who's in the background, everybody, join us in this celebration and singing and dancing all the blues away. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
Whenever you in trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank you, the Tri-State, for always supporting us. I would like to thank you, Kardec Radio. I would like to thank you all, everyone who always together. Let's start from Marcelo Cabral, always organize the meetings. Laura, who does the flyers. Julio Carvalho, responsible for the lectures every year. Isabella, for the music. Adilso and Angelita, always calling for the prayers. Carmen. Gustavo, thank you so much. Without you, it would not be helpful, would not be on live. Colleen, TJ, Elder, always calling me, check the edition on Facebook. Janine, each one of you who always participating. Marcelo Medeiros, the host, always making sacrifice to be present. If there is anyone who I forgot to mention it, please forgive me. Thank you so much, Bella, for comes with the question. So young is already participating. Thank you, Isabella, for beautiful music. Vanessa Celoni, Susana Simões, each one of you to be so lovely every year. Jussara Cornigal for being in the fourth one, and João Cornigal. Next year is gonna be the 10 years. And I always very thankful for my friends and my family because they always support me no matter what. And thank you, God, for Kardec, for compelling the 5 books of Spiritism and the Spiritism book. And God, for having all of us together. Chico Xavier to put all the 440 books together. Divaldo Franco. Everyone who collaborated to Spiritism to make this philosophy so concrete, realistic, and very, very enlightening to our souls. Thank you for each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you.